Look. Look at the size of that freshwater clam. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there's bass on the line.
Logs feel a little bushy on this rod.
Excuse me, Mr. Turtle. He doesn't want to move. The line is under the turtle, and he's not moving. Thank you. Somebody had a crappy day.
So yeah, so what I was saying, I thought this was a $99 reel. I didn't realize it was a $160 reel retail. And not being overwhelmed with for $99, I don't want to say it's a piece of junk because it's not.
I don't want to say it's a generic action, but it's sort of a generic action. The reason why you do want that pull cue when you're fishing a jig or fishing structure isn't because you're trying to horse fish out, while it is part of it. When you impact a branch, you don't want to load up the rod tip, because when you come off that branch, if the rod tip's loaded up, it's just going to pull that jig 1.5 feet instead of 6 inches. At least that's the way I look at it.
Gentlemen, ladies, and anyone in between, I welcome you all, and today we'll be getting up close and personal with a reel from a brand that you guys have been up my ass and around the corner about doing a teardown and putting some time on. This, my friends, is not the latest and greatest reel from LEW'S, although it is the first LEW'S reel and the first LEW'S rod. I've never fished one of the rods before in my entire life, but it's the first LEW'S reel that I've put any time on in any way, shape, or form in recent memory. And so let's go ahead and get started. I've compiled some on-the-water footage, which will play after I do the teardown. And I'll give you guys kind of a summary of kind of what my thoughts and my experiences are with this specific reel. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. It looks like it's a fairly simple reel to tear down. And if you're wondering why the spool is all knotted up, it's because I don't want to say it failed the backlash test, but it kind of failed the backlash test, where we turned the brakes all the way up. The magnetic dial was set to max. The centrifugal brakes were all activated, and we just flopped a jig right off the rod tips flat down into the water directly in front of us, and we did not thumb it at all, just to see what would happen. Because a lot of times when you buy a rod and reel in the $200 range, it could very be the first bait casting setup that an angler buys. So they're going to have to get past that steep learning curve, which doesn't come really with spinning reels. And I wanted to see how noob friendly, and there's nothing wrong with being a noob. The more people that are getting into it, the more people are going to be fishing, and the better that is for everybody all the way around. I wanted to see how noob friendly that this braking system is. And after putting some time on the water, truthfully, I didn't expect it to be very noob friendly, because even with a wide range of linear magnetic brakes and still having that centrifugal option with the pins on the side, we'll go ahead and pop the spool. You can see there's 4 centrifugal pins that are spring actuated. So when the spool is spinning, or I should say starts to spin at its fastest, these pins go out, and the second it slows down to the point where the springs can then overcome the centrifugal force, it'll pull the brakes outside of this friction ring here, which is that gold there. So even with those 2 brakes, it's still a fairly speedy reel. So it's not, I repeat, it's not the most noob friendly. And by noob friendly, I mean being able to cast into a brick wall at normal casting speeds and not have it completely detonate to the point where you got to cut the line off the spool. And that's exactly what happened. So Other reels can pass this test. It gets tricky when you're not using any spool tension. I'm a believer that if you're learning on a reel, you want to learn how to cast the proper trajectory and in the right direction. With modern reels out there, there are enough of these modern reels out there that you don't need to use the spool tension adjustment knob to apply tension to the spool in order to prevent an overrun. That's just what I believe after fishing so many baitcasters. And this reel was, out of every reel that I've done this backlash test with, this was actually one of the worst. The dirt cheap $60 or $70 Pissy Fun reel passed it with better results. Now, let's go ahead and get into my thoughts and opinions on this reel. So it's a $200 combo, okay? You can find it for cheaper and lower prices on the internets. And being 100% frank with you guys, I thought it was a $100 reel with a $100 rod, and I wasn't all that impressed with either part of the combo. Color me surprised when I found out that this is a $160 reel. $160 for this reel. I was blown away. At $99, I didn't think it was all that great, to be quite honest with you. It wasn't anything smooth. The braking system was something I've seen before out of those Chinese EM imports, or something of that, or something similar to that anyway. And what's going on here? Why are we having problems getting this out? Come on. It should come right out, right? Do, 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 do. I don't think that's the case, but oh, I know what it's like. The abos. It's duh. Where is my little pick tool? I didn't even see the little trap door here. Always, just like on an abo, this trap door hangs up on the base of the main gear. It'll come right off now. Duh. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't know it had a trap door. Ooh, nice shiny gear on it. Little drag stack. So yeah, so what I was saying, I thought this was a $99 reel. I didn't realize it was a $160 reel retail. And not being overwhelmed with for $99, I don't want to say it's a piece of junk, because it's not. It is an excellent casting. We don't have to organize these drag stacks, right? Right. It's an excellent caster. Bone dry carbon fiber discs for the drag. One thing I want to point out, and it's something from a tuner standpoint and somebody who's been inside reels before, but carbon fiber washers are great. I'm not saying to grease your carbon fiber washers for better, smoother performance. You're never going to notice the difference. Grease carbon fiber washers if you're fishing for fish that can pull 50 yards of drag, okay? And under heavy pressures. When it comes to this, grease them because you don't want loose carbon fiber dust and the remnants. It's very papery. You don't want the dust and little bits of the carbon fiber washers to find their way into the gap and the mesh between the main gear and pinion gear, because they're very abrasive. So yeah, bone dry. So over time, could that become an issue? It's not the end of the world if they're not greased. There's, for 20 years, carbon fiber washers were never greased. I don't even know how they've been used for 20 years. No, more like 10 years, right? But anyway, not the end of the world. Just something I noticed. And they are very papery. One of the things that impressed me most about that Pissy Fun was the washers that they used were pretty substantial. They almost felt like a Carbon Tex. These feel like what you get out of a Cast King. You know, I've been inside Cast King reels, been in a lot of reels, guys, and I'm not trying to say that they're lower quality because of whatever. I don't know how much they cost. Could be a pricing issue. Maybe the supplier's not using as quality, but they're low-grade carbon fiber washers compared to some of the other reels out there that are $100 less. Just pointing that out through what I've experienced. As far as the rest of the construction of the reel goes, reinforced graphite, call it, romantic plastic. It is, and what I'm seeing here, it's just what I've seen from pretty much all the OEMs out there. It's nothing special. It gets the job done. It's a reliable design. It's a baitcaster. It's not anything new. Yeah. I don't know why this is $160. You can see the orange isn't anything new or exciting in terms of materials. It's literally spray paint. You can see how it's kind of dusted on in here. Overspray. Drop that down there, send that across the room. 2 springs on the thumb bar actuation. Same thing we found in $70 Pissy Fun. It's got fancy knobs. Knobs aren't bad. The knobs are kind of comfy. It was a nice touch. I haven't fished a reel that had these big, giant, conical shaped wing grips. And yeah, I'll probably try to see if this handle fits in other reels, just to see how I like it on other reels. But it was a nice touch. It fished comfortably. On the water, when you're fishing this reel and you already got the rod home and you got it for $150 or whatever price is you got it for off of Amazon, even though it's a $200 MSRP on it, the second you're out on the water, it feels good. It fishes well. It doesn't do anything to knock my socks off. If I were to take my hard-earned $200, I'm buying I'm finding a deal on an SLX DC, because, well, let's get the $200 price tag away. If we're just buying this reel for $160, I'm going to save my allowance up and buy an SLX DC. I'm going to buy a Tatula 100, because those 2 reels are spectacular. The SLX DC is an absolutely phenomenal reel, and out of all the reels that I've tested so far, passes the backlash test for newbies better than any other reel out there, including the Tatula 100, the newer 100 series. So you can find a Tatula 100 for about $110, give or take, right? Metal frame reel. It's got the magnetic brake that has a non-fixed inductor. It's an excellent caster, on par with this reel, and it has a more noob-friendly brake. Piece it together with, I don't know, Daiwa Fuego rod for $80. The components on this LEW'S rod are the lowest end American tackle microwave guides. And in my opinion, I don't know if there's a benefit on the water in terms of using a freshwater bait caster like this, but I do know it gives the rod manufacturer something to advertise in addition to just having Fuji guides or whatever it is. But I'm not seeing a big difference, and these guides are dirt cheap. In addition to that, they're very high framed, so the guide ring stands off the blank pretty high, which allows the manufacturer to use fewer guides because it makes it easier to keep the line from touching the blank, but it kind of makes it twist a little more in your hand. I don't know. I'd rather see like base Fuji's, base Amtac, silicone carbide rings or nitride or aluminum oxide, whatever ceramic ring material you want to put on it, with a lower frame. And I don't know. It's one of those things where what are the microwave guides really doing besides giving them something to advertise in addition to just putting guides on the blank? So yeah. And the rod itself, the action, I know it's not designed just for jigs and spinners. It's designed to fish pretty much everything from Senkos and all that kind of jazz. And it'll do it. It's not an ideal action for fishing, vegetation and structure, where you don't want to have a rod tip that loads up significantly, because when you impact that structure and you tear it free, whether it's vegetation or the head of your jig is just kind of hung up and you just got to clear that branch, you don't want to load up that rod tip so it pulls it off 1.5 feet. You kind of want it to jump off like 4 to 6 inches and stay close to what you were pulling it out of or ripping it out of. And that's when you get smashed. That's when those fish hit it, because it looks like it came through and then stopped dead before it drops back down, or before you make contact with it again and start your retrieve or continue your retrieve. This rod kind of, dug a little deeper and pulled back a little bit more when fishing structure, which is just an action thing. The rod was sensitive, had good power, was comfortable to fish, it was lightweight, didn't have any issues with the rod. One thing I should also say, the rod was damaged in shipping. to the retailer, and they sent it my way. So they got one with a broken trigger on. I just sanded it down, which is something I do with a lot of my rods anyway. So it didn't even bother me in the slightest. So just making that perfectly clear. So even though the rod was damaged in shipping on their way to the retailer, it fished fine. Nothing broke on it. It didn't show up on the water for me any issue anyway. So it's with all that being said, would I recommend this setup? If you like the color orange, hell yeah. If you want to get it for a gift for somebody, yeah, why not? But if you have the ability to kind of piece together a setup, I would recommend going with some other brands like a Curado rod and a Tatula, or a lower model like an SLX rod and an SLX DC, or a SLX rod with a Tatula 100 kind of deal, or a Fuego. Fuego's a little bulky. The reason why I'm saying the Tatula is because that's the more compact aluminum frame reel from Daiwa, and some of the pricing on those things get down to almost, $100. But yeah. So it's with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys enjoy some of this on the water footage. And you'll see me fight a big pike at the end. That was on a Megabass Levante and an SLX DC setup. And going from all those little bass to this 18-ish, 20-pound pike, I really got to see just how much more solid this SLX DC is. And again, it's based on a $99 platform. It just has an extra ball bearing here and there and a different brake. It is a significantly more refined reel to winch under load. It is much more sturdy. The power transmission from the handle to getting that spool going under load feels more powerful compared to the $160 LEW'S. And again, the $200 combo, that $160 reel that comes with a rod kind of deal for almost what you pay for the SLX DC. Just adding that as a comparison. And there was, at the end of the trip, I was on the phone with my buddy who sent me this combo, and I had to hang up the phone call. And and the reason why I was able to transition from phone call to fighting a fish so easily is because I was using my Galaxy Note as my GoPro-esque camera. And this is the actual video that maybe consider going out and buying a GoPro Hero 8 Black, because the framing is kind of compact and confined. I wanted to expand it and see how it worked out. And I was very impressed now with the video quality of Hero 8 Black. So hope you guys enjoy this. Hopefully I'm not rambling too much. And yeah, enjoy.
All right, LEW'S Mach Crush baitcaster, take one. This is the first modern LEW'S reel. That's actually not bad considering I have the mag brakes set to max. This is the first modern LEW'S setup that I've fished ever. And that's my first cast with it. Wind's kind of blowing us a little sideways. Fishing a 3/8 ounce jig. Dragging it off of a beaver hut remnant. So there's lots of wood in there. And if I'm being honest, the retrieve feels very basic. That was basically a slack line retrieve, just swimming the jig back. So I can do that again. Sensitivity is okay on the rod. I am fishing 30-pound Power Pro Super Slick to a 12-pound fluorocarbon P-line Halo leader. I can feel myself coming up and over some of the branches. Oh, that was the second cast, and he thumped it right off the end of that beaver hut. The knobs, although I'm not a big fan of the giant, oversized conical shaped knobs, In this instance, they're so big. At least when new, the wind grip feels good. Wind doesn't last forever, but it lasts long enough for the most part. And when it goes slick and it loses its tackiness, it's not super tacky. It just feels like a good, almost like a grippy EVA foam. It's actually quite comfortable. The ones that Abu has almost force you into a arm and wrist angle, whereas these just kind of allows my hands just to drape over. It's actually pretty comfortable. Casting is superb, very long. One's at my back and swirling, mostly at my back. Even with the reel somewhat underspooled, I took it off of a Curado DC. Casting is exceptional. Again, it's a little underspooled, so I'm getting the benefit of the natural braking due to less line being paid out per revolution of the spool. Not super underspooled, but I mean, this is probably how most guys spool their reels. I like going right up to that flange. Not sure if this is an ideal jig rod. I don't want to say it's a generic action, but it's sort of a generic action. They say it's a medium heavy. I would say it's on the lighter end compared to some of the medium heavy rods that I owned. But as long as you can pull as hard as you normally would on a medium heavy, that's where it counts. Has a little bit more forgiving tip. Takes a little bit more in terms of distance from the tip to get into the power. Pretty forgiving. You can get away with using this for chatterbaits and jigs and worms and all that kind of stuff. It's more of a general duty medium heavy. It's not a super fast tip, which kind of gets a little specific. But our anchor rope is tangled up in our paddle. Like the casting of it. Nice flat trajectory, doesn't arc left to right due to the braking. Some brakes come in too hard, too early, too little, and then come in too late. The retrieve could use a little more refinement. And what I'm feeling is not in the handle knob bearings. I assume with a 10-ball bearing count, there's a few bearings in the knobs. I can definitely feel something going on. I'm not feeling the fact that it's not an aluminum frame reel. We haven't really picked up on that yet, since we're basically using it to pick up slack and then retrieve to cast again. A little play in the handle. More noticeable because the length from center we felt the thump on the way down. We weren't sure. And there's a lot of, I can feel some flex. It's a nice largemouth. Nice little chunk. And something else jumped right next to us. This is a solid, we'll call it 18-inch fish, 3.5 pounds. Nice chunk. Pretty fish, nice and clean. Anything in her mouth? Thanks, buddy. So we wrapped on the branch, unwrapped off the branch, I hit the water, and I felt a thump, but I was still in slack line, so I still felt it. And I was getting ready to come tight, but he had moved off the bank towards me with the jig in his mouth. So I saw the line going in the other direction. That's why I set up them. I didn't feel them. I didn't get tight on them. But that was pretty good. Okay, I wanted to make sure that my reel seat was tight because I felt there was a little bit of movement. And you can see it here. A little bit of weeble wobble. So yeah. You guys are buying these like hotcakes. You guys are telling me how great LEW'S is. First fish in definitely have used better in terms of fit, finish, feel, and just reeling in that little bass. I mean, for $200, it sure as hell looks cool. Looks like a transformer. Excuse me. And this is, I don't want to get into the OEM nature. This reel platform is used by numerous brands out there. It'll catch a ton of fish, without a doubt. The microwave guides, do with them as you please in terms of a bait caster. For light line spinning applications, I think they're cool. Whether I'm getting a benefit using a bait caster, I honestly couldn't tell you. I personally think it's the break in the reel that's making this cast so well. Effortlessly casting nice line drives from a seated position in a kayak, probably, we'll say 70 feet to the bank. And all I'm doing is just pushing the butt of the rod, and that's it. The length to the reel seat is perfect. Hopefully you can see that in the frame. Right between my bicep, hands right here. Fish is one-handed for reeling up slack like this by flicking the drag star. Very well, nice and compact. So many reels are big and clunky. I'm liking the trend of smaller, more compact over the last couple of years. Shimano SLX, some of the other Abu reels, so on and so forth. It's nice because if you don't have gorilla hands, it feels good. Oh, it's a big fish. Oh yeah. This is a 6. Should be. Yeah, it's a good bass. That's a big bass. He hit it the second. Solid 5, not a 6. Right where he should have been. And it has never been caught. That's a nice 21-inch fish. Beautiful, dark green, powerful fish, good fight. Beautiful. Anything in your gullet? Say, small mouths on these fish, despite how big they are. Solid 4.5, 5-pound fish. There we go. And once again, under load, it'll get the job done, no problems at all whatsoever. I can probably catch 500 of those fish before the gears give out. But it just doesn't feel as good as the $99 Shimano SLX. It doesn't. It doesn't feel as good as the Quantum Accurist. It doesn't feel as good as the long in the tooth Daiwa Fuego. I like the size, albeit it's a generic frame. But now it feels more geary now. It definitely feels more geary. See if you can hear it. just after 2 fish, we didn't horse out any snags. We didn't, break off any braid that was hung up by thumbing the spool. We didn't put a ton of strain on the drivetrain other than a couple hook sets. And the drag, I said about 5 pounds, 6 pounds, if that. Yeah, there we go. We're on the log. Yeah, there's a bass on the log. I'm gonna get him. Oh, I was back under the log again. You just kicked the log to get away. I'm sorry, buddy. Another small jawed largemouth bass. Every bit of 19 inches, 4 pounds. Smallmouth on these guys. Sorry about that, buddy. Sorry about all the drama. Alright, here we are, day 2 with the Mach Crush combo. And you can't hear, freezing. And the centrifugal, that was a high lob with the centrifugal brakes all activated with the mags set to minimum. And there was just that one loose coil. That was a lob, that wasn't a low boring, wind cheating cast. Good braking. Very good braking. Oh, there we go. Take it right off that branch. You know what? Let's see if we can swing him. Not too bad. What is this, 2.5, 3? Fuss. Oh, he slurped it. Better fish. Chunkier 18, so probably same length. A little bit more meat on them. Well, we felt some odd, like we were bumping bottom, but we weren't bumping bottom. Oh no, we're losing claws. Oh, we are into something real big. This is probably a big pike. He steamrolled. I don't know what this is. I just want to see it. Oh, please. please let me see it. Oh, it's a big pike. It's a big pike. Woohoo! Wow, look at you. Yeah, buddy. Look at you. We saw you last week. You followed my bait in. Look. Oh, what a day. What a day. You are pretty. You are pretty. Are you done yet? You're gonna jump. Look at the shoulders on you. Wow, that's a nice pike. All right, I think you're done. Wow, you're a beast, girl. If we can get this out without even no muss, no fuss, I'll be very happy. I don't even want to have to put my hand in your gill slit. Alright. Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. Wow. Bye-bye. That's a 20-pound pike. On everything I put a tail spinner on. This is all I've been fishing other than a jig. And it just destroys. Get rid of the paddle tail on your whatever shad body or wow. And then just scrap your spinner baits because this will outproduce in certain conditions. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Did you see how thick it was? A log. Handled it beautifully. Levante, Diablo, Spec R, SLX DC 30-pound, Berkeley X9 to a 12-pound leader. We got so lucky that it was a clean hook right in the corner of the mouth. But epic!